We're celebrating Hooray for Hollywood today. You notice some of you haven't seen this before, I got my own Oscar. For my performance, my wife gave me this. I don't think it was for any kind of performance or anything, but I like to tell the story of Oscar. This came about, the first Oscar presentation was 1927, and the first film was Wings. The first actor was Muriel Jennings, and the first actress was Janet Gaynor. But there's a story behind the legend of this statuette, Oscar. You see, the first story to this was Margaret Herrick, who works for the Academy of Arts and Sciences and a secretary. When she first saw the Oscar, she said, "It looks like my Uncle Oscar." And then Betty Davis got involved. She saw the Oscar and says, "It looks like my husband Oscar." But the first time that the Oscar was used in a presentation was in 1934. And it went something like this. They didn't have television back then. It was broadcast on radio. And the announcer said, "For a lead role in a motion picture by an actress, the Oscar goes to Katharine Hepburn for Morning Glory." So that was the first time that Oscar was used at the Academy Awards. Many of you know that I travel throughout the Southeast. I perform at senior communities and senior centers. And I bring the golden age of Hollywood to life with stories of the studios, the celebrities, and the films of that grand era. It's a fun time. Wait a minute, you ain't heard nothing yet. Does anybody know what motion picture that line came from? Who said the jazz singer? Mary, give him a candy bar. Mary's. Who said that? Cecile said it too, I think. See, yes, it was the jazz singer. And the person saying that was Al Jolson. And that film marked the beginning of the golden age of Hollywood because it was the first speaking film. And back then they called them the talkies. The film was produced by Warner Brothers. And that was in 1927. And that golden age of Hollywood lasted for over 20 years. And during that period, there were over 7,500 films produced, and 83 million people went to the motion picture theaters an average of once a week. And that's during the Great Depression and World War II. And all the 5 major studios owned all of the motion picture theaters across America. MGM, Warner Brothers, RKO, Paramount, and 20th Century Fox. It was a grand time, grand era. In 1939 is the year that many critics, the American Film Institute and Dick Segretto, says that was the year that produced more of the greatest films of all time in that single year. Films like Gone with the Wind, Goodbye, Mr. Chips, Mr. Smith Goes to Washington, Roaring Twenties, Destry Rides Again, Stagecoach, Hunchback of Notre Dame, and then, of course, Gunga Din. How many have heard of Gunga Din or maybe even seen it? Anybody know who the 3 actors were that played the Bengal Lancers in Gunga Din? Anybody? Cary Grant. Who said Cary Grant? She gets a candy bar. Cary Grant. Most people. Cary Grant. Who was the other 2? No. How about Douglas Fairbanks Jr. and Victor McLaughlin, the great character actor, starred as the 3rd Bengal Lancer. Now here's the tough part to this question. Who played Gunga Din? Who said Jam? Say, oh my God, you want to come up here and just sit with me and just answer all my questions?
I obviously need to get alive.
Sam Jaffe played Gunga Din, the water boy who was the wannabe Bengal Lancer. But he did a popular television show in the mid-50s. You may recall, it was a TV series called Ben Casey. And he starred along with Vince Edwards, and Sam Jaffe played Dr. Zorba, the chief of staff. And that popular television series.